naming binary covalent compounds. Now remember that binary means 2 and covalent means that I'm going to be working with a nonmetal and a nonmetal, right? Here are the steps for naming. We're going to use the appropriate prefix to indicate the number of atoms of each element present. Note the exception. Mono is never used in front of the first element. So if I have one atom, the prefix would be mono. If I had 2 atoms, di, 3 tri, 4 tetra, 5 penta, 6 hexa, 7 hepta, 8 octa, 9 nona, and 10 deca. We must change the ending of the last element to "ide." Now look at this exception at the bottom. We're going to drop the A or the O in the prefix if the element is oxygen or oxide. Here are some examples. The first formula, SF6. I know that it is safe to assume that there is only one S present and 6 fluorines present. So I remember that the exception said that I'm not going to use mono in front of the first name. So instead of saying monosulfur, I'm going to just say sulfur. Now for the last name, or for the second part of that name, I'm going to include the hexa in front of fluorine and change the ending to ide, I-D-E. pH3. Safe to assume that there is one phosphorus there, and I'm not going to write monophosphorus because I'm going to, that is the exception, mono does not go in front of the first name. And I notice that I have 3 hydrogens, but I'm not going to say trihydrogen. I'm going to change that ending to ide to create phosphorus trihydride. CO. I have 1 carbon and 1 oxygen. So I'm going to say I have 1 carbon and 1 oxygen. So I'm going to say carbon monoxide. So remember, mono does not go in front of the first name. P4O10. The prefix for 4 is tetra. The prefix for 10 is deca. And notice here, because this is an O, I dropped the A on deca. This is tetraphosphorus decoxide. As2O3. I have 2 arsenic atoms for every 3 oxygen atoms. I have diarsenic trioxide. And my last one, Cl. This here is Cl3O4. That's trichlorine tetroxide. Notice the A is dropped for the oxide. And the last one, I have 2 chlorines for every 7 oxygen, dichlorine heptoxide. That A is dropped as well. Steps for writing formulas for covalent compounds. We are first going to use the prefix to determine the number of atoms of each element present. Then we're going to write the formula. Dicarbon trichloride. That tells me that I have 2 carbons for every 3 chlorides or chlorines, C2Cl3. Diphosphorus pentoxide. I have 2 phosphorus atoms for every 5 oxides or 5 oxygen atoms, P2O5. Trinitrogen dioxide. I have 3 nitrogen atoms for every 2 oxygen atoms or 2 oxides, diphosphorus heptoxide, 2 phosphorus atoms for every 7 oxygen atoms. Nitrogen trioxide, 1 nitrogen atom for every 3 oxygens.